Welcome to the Real IDP Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Real IDP Hunter. As you guys know, I'm a top 3 ranker in Fantasy Pros. Previous season, I was a top 4 ranker in 2023. But we're not talking redraft, are we? We're talking rookies. And we don't even have the combine yet. All we had is the Senior Bowl. So we're trying to sort through these guys. I brought my man back, Big Ben. Ben Safos, if you guys don't know who he is, works over ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, but he's also getting ready to start a new podcast, and it's kind of interesting, so I'm going to let him talk it real quick. Ben, where can an audience find you in your work?
You can find me with Draft Professors. It's a wide network of a bunch of, draft nuts like me, and we just kind of get together on this show called the Mrs. Irrelevant podcast. Jim, he's kind of the guy in charge of everything. He runs the show. And my time slot is Saturdays at 10 a.m. Saturdays at 10 a.m. is when I'm on.
For those that can see my screen, I got some of Ben's shorts up here. This is going to be a good show, this Draft Professor. I'm kind of interested in it. Ben, you've been on my show before. I kind of wanted to bring you back to talk some offense to kind of straighten us up in the wide receiver rookie community. First, I got a question for you before you even begin. I know you've been slaving over your rankings, but what's your rationale? What's your processing? What makes Ben tick? How did you come to the conclusion of sorting these players out?
Yeah, I mean, it all boils down to traits. I mean, you want your receiver to do a variety of different things. You want to be as versatile as he can be. How good are you after the catch? Do you play well through contact? Are you able to come down with contested passes? How refined is your route running? Like, how is your separation going to translate to the NFL? Like, it's stuff like that. There's a lot that goes into the process for evaluating a wide receiver. Those are a lot of the main traits that I'm looking at.
So I'm kind of already excited. For those that can see my screen, for those on Spotify, welcome in. For those on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, welcome in. On YouTube, I have the tier brackets set up, and Ben's going to reveal his wide receiver list. And already I'm intrigued. I have questions already. Most sites, most people I have talked to, they have a tier of like 3 players. And, not to spoil it, but I'm going to ask you, between Lemon, Tyson, and Tate, everybody kind of has a different. Everybody says there's not a clear kind of distinction. I know I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but those are usually your 3 in drafts. Either or, people are saying it's a longer, solid draft process. But I see right here, you have a top dog. You have a top dog to start your draft off. Without further ado, I'll let you kick it off. I'm just very curious how you jumped to that conclusion.
Mekhi Lemon is the top dog, and there is nothing wrong with him. He reminds me so much of how I felt about JSN coming out. And I remembered in my Dynasty draft, JSN was the 3rd overall pick. And I remembered thinking like, oh, yeah, it's kind of a light year for, these weapon type players, position players. And JSN's, he's the best guy, but he's not a great athlete. Boy, I look stupid on that one. So do a lot of other people. I think we're starting to see a shift in the modern day meta with wide receiver. We're seeing these guys that are just so refined at everything. And while they might not have like top end speed, they have that fluidity. They have that route running ability. They just separate underneath so well, and they're so hard to cover. Plus they have that physicality and mad dog aspect to their game that they win. They win in a way that you probably wouldn't expect. Like, a lot of people probably wouldn't have expected JSN to be like in the conversation for best wide receiver in the league, but he's so refined at everything that he does. You compare him with the athletic profile of a guy like, oh my goodness, Malik Neighbors. Why was I blanking on his name?
I'm glad you said Malik Neighbors.
Yeah.
On that note, I'm so sick of people saying he's Amon St. Brown. All right, sure, I see the team comparison, I see slot, but he has a lot more to offer, right? Catch out of backfield, gadget plays, what have you. But yeah, I'm so glad that somebody else refreshingly has a different player comp for him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough to compare anybody to Amon-Ra St. Brown because he's so big and like physical. He's like a moving train coming towards you. Like, Mekhi Lemon doesn't quite have that build, but he's dense. He's 5'11", 195 pounds. What he does well is he runs routes at one of the most refined levels you'll see. I'm not really worried about him in press. So he was protected a lot against press because he moved out of the slot most of the time. But when you see corners try to go one-on-one against him and, jam him at the line of scrimmage, he's got that arm chop. He's got arm bars. Like, he does a nice job of hand fighting with the defensive back to make sure he's not contacted and losing momentum during routes. He's got incredible head fakes, that indicator step to get you to open your hips the other way and then freeze you up when you break the opposite way. He is a pit bull after the catch. I mean, you get the ball in his hands, he is going to scrap for yards. Not only does he have the twitch and lateral fluidity to just juke you out, but he's also got this power to him and this yards after contact that he brings to the table. There's not much. And, the contested catches, I didn't even bring those up. He plays so far above his height when coming down with contested catches. That's what's really so similar between him and JSN. Like, if you're going to be like a more limited athlete in terms of long speed and stretching the field, you got to bring it in other areas if you want to be elite. And that's what he does. He's elite almost everywhere except for long speed. Like, yeah, whatever. He's not going to burn you down the field like every play, You know who else was a burner? Friggin' Mecole Hardman. Like, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Cool, you're fast. Good for you. What else can you do? He does everything well. And I don't see anybody better than Mekhi Lemon in this class.
Interesting. So who would be your wide receiver 2 if Lemon's your 1?
I'm going to go with Jordan Tyson. So I'm not a doctor. I can't give you anything about the medicals. But, you compare him with a guy like Carnell Tate, who's also in this tier with me, a little spoiler. He's just more refined of a player. Like Carnell Tate, he's a project, so there's an unknown there. Jordan Tyson, you kind of know what you're getting with Jordan Tyson, but there's medical question marks. So both these guys have question marks, but both these guys are really, really good players. So Jordan Tyson, he's another great route runner. He does all the route running stuff well. I'd argue he's like maybe even a little bit more explosive and twitchier than Mekhi Lemon. He's missing that physical aspect that Mekhi Lemon has in his game. Like, he's fine after the catch. He's not a guy that I would describe as a weapon after the catch. But what he's going to do is he's always going to be open for you. He's going to be able to come down with the football. Maybe struggles a little bit more with contact on routes, but because he runs routes at such an elite level, he's going to be one of these guys that's vying for the best receiver on your team, most likely, unless you have one of these elite guys on the field. He reminds me of Ani Toomer with the Giants, if anybody remembers Ani Toomer. He was this, he's not this guy that you remember as like, wow, he's one of the best receivers of our generation. But he's one of those guys that just ran routes so well that he was able to be this productive, reliable force in terms of being the guy that you look to when you're on a crucial 3rd and long. That's the kind of guy that Jordan Tyson's going to be. And he gets off press. He gets off press a lot better than he did last year as well. Like, his jab step has improved a lot. So he's just one of these all-around guys. You could run him out of the slot. You could run him at X. You could run him at Z. He's got this versatile type of body, this versatile type of athletic skill set. He's going to be a guy that you should target in your leagues if nothing comes out about this injury stuff. See, we don't know. We're still early in this process.
Yeah, it's tough.
Coming up.
You're right. This is a pre-combine, post-Senior Bowl analysis. With this. For those on Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts, welcome in. You're in for a treat. I'm talking with Ben Safos here, but we also pulled up the All-22 film. And on Tyson, there's something that clearly sticks out, at least to me anyway, his long vertical game. I mean, that's something really special there. And also the injuries. We're not doctors. We don't know. Buy a dip on either one of these 3. I mean, if you have a 1.3 in your draft, you're bound to get one. You know what I mean? So yeah, if you don't have anything else, who's your 3rd guy?
Yeah, we'll talk about Carnell Tate. Yeah, I teased him before. Some athletes are just impossible to deny. Like he's got the short area explosiveness. He's not tight hipped. Like, you think, oh, contested catch winner, he probably can't separate. No, he's fluid. Like, he can really get after it laterally. He also has probably, out of those three guys, I would probably guess he has the best speed. If I had to guess, I would say probably like 4.47-ish type speed. Maybe a little bit like 4.48, 4.49. But none of these guys are major burners. But Carnell Tate kind of, he can get down there. He can get downfield. The thing with him, the route running is not the most refined, and that became more that became more evident as the season went on and they played better competition. See, sometimes he just doesn't quite step on the toes of the defensive back. Like when you're coming up on the defensive back and you're about to snap off a route, you want to almost be stepping on their toes before you break it. You want to give them no room to be able to anticipate your movement and close in on it and squeeze the route. So he's got a little bit of ways to go in terms of that. Sometimes he telegraphs his routes. He doesn't utilize head fakes like he should. Maybe a little extra step here and there on a route break. It's stuff like that. But he's such an incredible athlete, and he is one of the most gifted contested catchers I've ever seen in my entire life. He might be the best.
What's interesting, I was looking at some stuff on Twitter. I think it was Football Guys. Forgive me. I can't remember where I got this from. And again, push back on this, if you think otherwise. But Carnell Tate, what did he have? 51 catches, 875 in college. He had in 2024, he had 52 receptions. That's the only thing that kind of bugs me. You kind of want these guys over like 60 catch performances. So here's the stat I just wanted to share with you. It's a funny stat. I'm not holding, just like IDP, I'm not holding production on people, but it's an interesting stat. Players drafted high with fewer than 60 catches. Matthew Golden, Jalen Reagor, Henry Ruggs. I know. It doesn't fit the profile. I don't know if there's something to it, but there's three guys there. I just figure I'd add that. Any thoughts there?
Well, I'll give you my thoughts on Matthew Golden. His time hasn't come yet, and it will. I'm a big Matthew Golden fan. He was another guy that was a little bit more raw in the route running department, but he had all the traits. I think he's going to take a big step this year. You can hold me to that. Jalen Reagor, I think he was one of these guys that really was not a route runner at all. He was a little before I got into player evaluation, but what I understand about him is people liked him for his speed, and they just saw that he was one of those like John Ross type guys where people saw the speed and they fell in love with it. And he just wasn't very versatile or dynamic outside of that one element. And Henry Ruggs, the speed was also stand out with him. But if you remember, I thought he produced pretty well when he stepped into the league before unfortunate things off the field happened. So that's, that's kind of stuff you can't really anticipate unless he's got major character concerns off the field. So comparing Carnell Tate to these guys, he's the best athlete. Carnell Tate's the best athlete. He's the guy with the most upside. He's the most physical out of all those players. There's hardly anybody in this draft more physical than Carnell Tate. Like the way he's able to box you out for the ball, make catches outside of his frame, and just moss the ever-loving crap out of you is it's up here. I'm trying to find somebody I've seen that's better than him at doing that in terms of people I've scouted. And it's a pretty damn short list. He might be at the very top. Another thing he does really well is run block. And that's something that keeps you on the field. No block, no rock. So he's a player that could definitely get some leeway to get that development because he's able to make those blocks.
A 3-down player, like you just said, he's a former 5-star recruit. He has that pedigree. And the tape here, you can clearly see it. He stretches the field with those long, big shovel hands. You know what I mean? So some team is going to be happy to get him. But all of his tape is exciting, to look at. And, I like your player comp on him. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, his film is wow. That's all I want to say there.
Yeah, my player comp is Justin Blackmon. Because Justin Blackmon was the same. Okay, again, take the off the field stuff out of the picture. Don't worry. This is Justin Blackmon if he found rehab before he found the league. Justin Blackmon, he was this guy that moved at this exceptional level. And he could just really big dog you for the football. But he wasn't the most refined player. But if you remember, when he stepped into the league, he was already pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But I believe he only played like one season, maybe two, before he had all that, alcohol stuff happen and whatever, God bless him. Hope he's doing well. But I think I like the comp might sound like a negative, but it's really not. Justin Blackmon was a hell of a prospect.
He was.
It wasn't the on the field stuff that ruined his career. So that it was hard to find. I could also go easily with like Martavis Bryant for somebody like Carnell Tate.
Ooh, that's a name.
Same kind of vertical pushing type guy, lanky, but he comes down with contested catches. Like it's tough to find an exact comp for him because he's got this weird build where he's not like the biggest guy. He looks slender, but he does not play like it. He plays like
a good point. As scouts like we are, and we're talking about these players, you're not going to see – everybody can't be a Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams, right? So we're trying to see how the player moves. We're not going to say they're going to have the same production. And you're right. I remember everyone drafting Justin Blackmon. He was a hot prospect. Just didn't pan out for him. Ben, I have a question for you. These tiers that you set up, they're very unique. Would you mind explaining these tier categories real quick for us?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the next one – these are guys that I could certainly see becoming wide receiver 1 types, but they're not quite there. I would definitely say that they have an upside to become a wide receiver 2, certainly a flex type. Like these are the kind of athletes that you want to bet on. And all those traits that I talked about that make a wide receiver good, the ones I talked about before we started, they have so many of those. And they don't quite have all of them put together yet. And they need to take a step forward if they want to get there to be like an elite guy or a wide receiver 1 type guy, but they're right on the cusp. These are the fringe guys right here.
So I got you. So you had your top 3 tier guys, and then you separated between 1 alpha and 2 bravos, right? Yes. And then this tier here, you got 2 fringe but high potential guys, and then the next tier, you have 3 other tiers with 5 players. You have a flex tier. And then you got a role-based tier, like maybe wide receiver 3s. And then finally, we're going to round the show off. What do we have? A top 20, Ben, with sleeper with potential guys?
Yeah, that's what I'd say. Yeah, flex appeal. Those are guys I'd be shocked if they weren't good flex players if they're in starter snaps. And with potential to obviously become wide receiver 2 types. They're not guys that necessarily project to be league breakers, but they're guys that I think are going to be good roster fills. The next tier is what we got. The role based players.
Yeah, you got you got your fringe high upside, and you're on number 4 there. I was kind of curious to see who you had there as your number 4.
Number 4, yeah, with the fringe guys, Omar Cooper Jr. Omar Cooper Jr. is so close to being really, really good. I feel very similarly to him to the way I felt about Luther Burden last year. Because that's my comp for him. It's almost Luther Burden. Because I think Luther Burden was a bit better of an overall athlete, but not by that much. So my comp is almost Luther Burden. So he's got moments where he flashes some really good route running and separation ability. It's not always there all the time. Like there's some moments, like I said, where maybe he just doesn't pace his routes super well or isn't deceptive with his eyes, stuff like that. But he has the traits. He has that lateral fluidity that can be tapped into. And another thing about him, he reminds me a little bit of Harold Fannin in the way that Harold Fannin had he had this high cut build with long legs and his ass was on his back. That's kind of how Omar Cooper's built. So he has this lateral fluidity, but sometimes he just doesn't quite get low enough to tap into it. Like you could tell it's there. Like Harold Fannin, when he came into the league, nobody's questioning that guy's ability to separate. But if you look at him on tape at Bowling Green, that wasn't one of his strong suits. Like, it's just a matter of reps. It's just a matter of refining your game. Omar Cooper's close. And something else he does really well is getting off press. Like another guy that plays a lot of snaps from the slot. He's got a very limited route tree. I think it's a lot of inexperience with him rather than just being bad at running routes. Because he's not. He flashes some really good moments of high potential. And he's one of those athletes that could work his way up to being a wide receiver 1 type because of the build that he has and the athletic traits. And yeah, he's unmoved by contact because he's just a dense fella. He's like 6 foot, 204. He's like a moving rock out there. He's hard to move. And I haven't even gotten to the best part about him, which is his after the catch ability. He's tough to tackle. He's tough to tackle. He's going to run through you and around you. Like, he's got the moves. He understands angles. He's got great body control. Like, he understands how you're trying to get at him, what angle you're taking, and how I can exploit it, and how exactly I'm able to use my body and move in a certain way to where I am exploiting it. And you're on your ass on the field. And yeah, that ability through contact, all that, they used him as like this after the catch weapon. They almost used him like a running back out of the slot. That's kind of how he is. So when you think Omar Cooper, think kind of in like the Deebo Samuel mold of like running back that can also play really good wide receiver. So there's a lot to get excited about with him. And I think he's a solid contested catch winner too. Like, yeah, if you're a project, you better have another standout trait that you could really buy into. Like physicality, I could buy into that. Run after catch ability, where you're not only like a jitterbug, but you're also somebody that can lower the shoulder and just plow through a guy. I could buy into that. Movement skills, I could buy into that. There's just so much to buy into with Omar Cooper Jr. I have in the real draft around 1 to 2 grade on him. Like, I'd take him on that cusp. For fantasy purposes, I project him as somebody who's got a lot of upside.
Interesting. And then who's your next guy?
Next guy is Zachariah Branch.
Okay.
This you remember Xavier Worthy? This is every class has one. This is this year's Xavier Worthy.
Oh, so, I like Branch. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Yeah, that's a good one.
Total body catcher. You know, the ball skills are not quite there. He's not a guy that you're going to want to bank on being a contested catch winner. So already negative. But if you watch this guy move, there are very few people that can move the way that this guy can. I mean, it's butter. Nobody's catching up to him on route breaks. He's really refined as a route runner. He understands the nuances of how to separate, not only with his athletic ability, but with all the IQ stuff that I mentioned before, like the indicator step and the head fakes and the whatever. And also after the catch, he's an absolute menace. He's one of those guys that gets faster the longer he runs. So he's just hard to catch up to. He's hard to take an angle towards, because as soon as you commit to an angle, it's like, darn, he already sped up again.
Right. Yeah. I've been key on him. I like Branch. When he came out of high school, he was at that 2023, that new crop of college players. He was the top player. He was the top wide receiver coming out. A lot of people don't know that. He's a former 5-star recruit prospect. The guy's legit, and you got him high on your list, higher than consensus. I think you're going to prove a lot of people wrong with that.
Yeah. Daniel Jeremiah loves him as well. Yeah, and the obvious concerns are the playing through contact. But if you just like all the other stuff besides playing through contact, he's incredibly good at. It's the same way that Xavier Worthy was coming out. Now, if he were more of a ball winner, like somebody that I trust to consistently come down with the football and not let it come to him, I want my guys attacking the football in the air. I want guys, Steve Smith Sr. calls it pluckability. I want guys with pluckability. I want them to see that ripe cherry on the tree and then take it down, snatch it down. You don't wait for it to fall to you. You see a ripe fruit that you want, you're not going to wait like years for it to fall off the tree. No, you're going to go look for it. You're going to go grab it. You want pluckability. He doesn't quite have that pluckability, but he's got a lot of aggression. He's got traits to love. He's just one of those guys that's so hard to cover, and it's hard for me to rank him any lower than I did.
Mm-hmm. You're at 6, and I got some film for you. Who's your wide receiver 6 there, my friend?
Yeah, we got Jeremy Berard. Hate the injury, and a lot of people will tell you Denzel Boston is probably a better prospect, and I'm kind of hinting at my next guy is Denzel Boston. I see movement skills with Chris Bell that are not present in Denzel Boston. See, Chris Bell, he's explosive off the line. He's another really smooth-hipped guy, a little bit unrefined as a route runner, but he can win contested catches. He can play physical football. In terms of getting contact off him on routes with, arm bars or chops, like he's unrefined in all that. But this is the athlete that's got downfield speed to match with that huge size. So, kind of similar to Cardinal Tate in a way. But, Carnell Tate's contested catch tape is dominant. Chris Bell's is good. It's not dominant. But he's one of those athletes that you really want to buy into. And I put bargain bin A.J. Brown for my time. Because I'm not going to say someone's A.J. Brown, because he's not. But if you remember A.J. Brown coming out, A.J. Brown was a very similar guy. He was this raw, big guy who had this deep speed, who had this athleticism, that it's like, okay, how is that going to translate to the league? You were playing in this Ole Miss scheme that doesn't ask you to run routes. You're pretty much just a guy that's winning with your athletic traits. Is that gonna translate to the league? Those are the questions that people are asking about Chris Bell, other than the injury stuff. And to be honest, as a prospect, I do see them similarly. Like, only time will tell if Chris Bell has that extra gear that A.J. Brown does to just be able to dominate somebody for the football. But, I mean, his contested catch tape is damn good. He's not an electric athlete after the catch, but he's another guy that's just damn good. So it's just tough to come by players that have this blend of size mixed with that athleticism that I found it hard to pass up on him. That's as far as I would let him slide with the injury, is down to 7.
Yeah, and like I said, we've only done 7 prospects. Just to recap for the audience, Lemon in the tier of his own, Tyson and Tate right behind, followed by this next tier of Cooper, Branch, and Berard. We just mentioned Chris Bell. He kind of hinted at his wide receiver 8 that's coming up. And then we have 2 others in this flex appeal tier. And then we're halfway through, Ben. I mean, you're a better talker than me. If this was IDP, I'd be talking for like an hour, and we'd probably be on pick 2, right? So
believe me, I can talk more. I'm just trying to get the important points out there.
No, you're incredibly fine. And this next guy, we actually got some film on. I find him intriguing. What can you tell us about your wide receiver 8 here?
Well, I could tell you that he's the son of David Boston, and I always accidentally call him David Boston because, frankly, build-wise, they look very similar. This is just a big hunk of meat. Like, he's listed at 209. I think he might be even a little bigger than that. Like, I'm curious to see what he measures in at the combine, because if it's exactly 209, I almost wonder if he played the season bigger and he dropped like 10 or so pounds so he could test better. So, like I said, big guy. The thing that stands out about him, I don't love his athleticism, but the trait I do love is the explosiveness in the short area. Like, it helps him out immensely more than it would if he didn't have it, because if you're stiff-hipped, you at least want to burst into your cuts. You at least want to get some separation with that first step, which he does. He's a fine separator underneath, but he's not that great at it. He's not a refined route runner. He's a raw guy. And another thing that the explosiveness helps with is when he's trying to make people miss after the catch. You want to jam that foot into the ground. You want that first step to take you directly upfield, because you don't want to be a plotter. You don't want to plot at all. You don't want to give people time to close in on you and find an angle. No, you want to step upfield immediately and then have them guessing again. So he's good at that. Some people think he's this like after the catch weapon. I don't necessarily see that on his tape. I think he's good. I think he's good for a big guy that's primarily going to win for just through jump balls alone. The trap I'm worried about falling into with David Boston, because you're going to have people that have him higher. It's the Keon Coleman, N'Keal Harry trap of like, wow, look at this guy's contested catch tape. Look at how many jump balls this guy's winning. Wait, why is this guy getting in so many jump ball situations? Oh, he can't separate that well. Okay, but look at his jump ball tape. See, you can't bank on that You can't bank on that being something that is your main thing in the league. Like, there are very few receivers that get by on not being able to separate at all and just making their money off of being able to pluck the ball off the top shelf. I mean, these are NFL athletes. These corners are longer. These corners are stronger. These corners have better ball skills. They're able to find the ball better in the air. So the contested catch situations that you're going to see in the league are far more difficult than you're going to see in college. So, like I said, he does have a little bit of room to work with his separation. I think his deep separation is pretty nice because he's got this big man twitch to him. If you're going to be a big man, you better be twitchy. Like, you could be stiff-hipped, whatever. You better at least have twitch and suddenness when you make a move. I think when he gets downfield, you see that twitch and suddenness start to set in. He's not fluid. Like, he's not a guy where you're like, wow, he looks like a joystick out there for a big man. but he makes his decision with intent when he decides to break on a route. And I think he works that into his short area quickness a little bit too. Like you'll see it in some of this tape. Like his route tree is not super developed. It's not like that's really my hang up with him. If he separated a little bit better, and if that after the catchability was more of a trump card with him, then I would be more bought in to David Boston. But what you can buy into is the short area athleticism and the contested catchability. Plus, he's an incredible run blocker. And honestly, a lot of these problems I had with Puka Nacua coming out. So I'm going to give you bargain bin Puka for my comp with him. Because he has a way of getting downfield, even though he's not particularly fast. Like, you know, it's game speed. He's not going to test that well speed-wise, but he's got decent game speed. He's an incredible blocker, and he's got one of those, like he's another one of those guys just like Puka, where if you put the ball on the top shelf, he's going to go grab it and make you look stupid. So there are similarities to Puka coming out. Puka wasn't, you know, an incredible route runner in college, like either. He was more so this raw guy. I think he was playing his last season hurt too.
Right.
But once he was allowed to play this role in this Sean McVay scheme where he flexes into the slot a lot, he's able to lay down crackback blocks. He's able to get some free releases, and then you can also use him as this physical presence on the outside. I see a little bit of that with Denzel. I almost did it again. I almost called him David Boston. I see a little bit of that with Denzel Boston.
I'm afraid of some of these pronunciations of names. It's going to take me a while too to figure out, you know, everybody and their names and whatnot. So yeah, it's common this time of year to be mispronouncing names. I know I do it all the time.
Yeah. That brings us to the next name, I think, which is Casey Concepcion.
It is.
This is one of the highest upside players in the class, but one of the highest bust potential players in the class. To be honest, I really struggled to rank him. I really struggled to find a spot for him because he could be like the next Jalen Waddle. He could be that next guy, or he could be the next Mecole Hardman because he has the same problems as Mecole Hardman did. And you know what? I'm going to throw another name at you, Kadarius Toney. He has a lot of those same problems as well. So he's frenetic on routes. He doesn't pace them well. He's just running at full speed most of the time. Unrefined, again, in terms of those deceptiveness traits that I was talking about. And also the contact. The contact on routes worries me a little bit. He's a little bit too easy to jam and halt his momentum when he's running. So, see, that stuff scares me because that stuff leads to you being a little bit untrustworthy as a receiver. Because how does he know that you're going to be able to come through even in the clutch moments where you might not be totally open or he needs you to get more open? The most refined that he looks is getting off of press coverage when he pushes vertical. When he runs a 9 route, he does have a pretty sick jab step. Like that little Euro step where you're able to just plant your foot in the ground and then fire off it, get the cornerback to open his hips the other way so you could fly past him and stack him. He had he probably dropped Brandon Cissay's draft stock an entire round because of what he did to him on tape during that South Carolina game. So he has moments where he looks really refined. And he's another one of those guys where there are a lot of times where he looks a little bit more advanced in his route running than he normally does, but they're few and far between. And he's also really good after the catch. And another thing that worries me is all this stuff kind of came out of nowhere with him. He was really just this speed movement skills guy at NC State, but all of a sudden now he transfers to Texas A&M, and now there's this after the catch ability that comes out. Oh, there's all of a sudden he's got this weird surge of or did I say contested catchability or after the catchability? I meant after the catch, if that's
right, yeah.
But as I was getting to, he also did have some weird contested catch production this year. Like there were moments where he was able to come down and big dog you for the ball. But he also had a 10% drop rate this year, and I believe he had like a 14% drop rate last year. Like there are drops on tape for this guy. You know, sometimes the ball skills don't totally come through. And I don't know if he's a guy I would bank on being a contested catch threat in the league. You know, you see his frame, you see how he's built, you see his history of poor contested catch production. And I feel like this is an outlier season for him. So there are definitely shades of guys like Mecole Hardman and Kadarius Toney who were intriguing as athletes that never quite figured it out as route runners. But, there's also what if this is the guy, So my comp for him was Marvin Mims, because I feel like Marvin Mims was similar, but he was more further along than the last two guys I mentioned as a route runner and separator.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay.
And then we're gonna talk about the last guy in this tier, which is the complete opposite of Casey Concepcion. That's Elijah Surratt. So we got a big fella. We got about 213 pounds, 6'2". Like, it shows on the field. He's got size. He's got decent short area explosiveness. I'll tell you what, I love his route running. I think he's got great footwork. His feet are quick. He's refined in terms of knowing how to separate and look people off routes. He's able to hand fight. Like, someone clearly taught this guy very well, because it shows in his tape. But what really, unfortunately, also shows up is the athletic limitations and the limitations in other areas as well. This is a guy that you're not going to be seeing pull away at the intermediate level or like middle of the field. He just does not have that speed. So even if he beats you initially on the route break, cornerbacks with decent recovery speed are going to be able to get back in position pretty quickly, because he just doesn't have that fluidity and he doesn't have that long speed. This guy might be like a 4.6 guy. I wish the contested catch production was a little more consistent. There's moments where he's able to catch really well through contact. Like, I think if the ball's in his vicinity, it doesn't really matter who's touching him. He's usually able to come down with it. But where he runs into problems is, I think, where the ball is a little bit more outside his frame. I think adjusting to the ball is a little bit tougher for him. So, okay, yeah, you're good at contested catches, not great. He's got a lot of try after the catch. He's going to pick up some contact yards. But again, being able to plant that foot in the ground and generate a lot of speed with that first move, he just doesn't really have that. And he doesn't have that agility to be able to make you miss with, like, moves, jukes, cuts, whatever. So he's just this guy that's going to fall forward pretty well. And there's going to be moments where he lowers the shoulder and has some nice moments where maybe he breaks a tackle. But I don't think he's really going to be known for creating after the catch. So what you have here is just this athlete who is really, really, like, this not so great athlete who is really, really good at route running. That to me reminds me of James Jones from the Packers. And that's my comp for him, because that's what James Jones was. He was another guy kind of similar in the mold of Amani Toomer, but much worse of an athlete. Amani Toomer, the one thing he did really well was run routes at an elite level. This guy does that too, but unfortunately, it's just not quite as effective as it would be if you had the athleticism of an Amani Toomer or Jordan Tyson, because he's unfortunately Elijah Surratt. He's just limited. So that's my take on Surratt. There's going to be some people that like him because of what he's done in the playoffs. There's definitely stuff to like about him, but I think he's a little bit more limited. He's probably the last guy I would put in this tier.
Mike says, and you're halfway done with your list. So, like, these last two tiers, you got 5 in each tier. What was the key separator between these tiers? How did you define this?
Well, kind of like what I was talking about with the limitations to Surratt's game. A lot of them, there's a lot more limitations to these players' game. Yeah. And honestly, Surratt could have easily made his way down into this tier. I just think he has enough good moments that he showed he's a more versatile player than some of these guys. Like, some of these players I'm about to mention are one-trick ponies, but that one trick is really good. Or they have almost enough to where I would consider them a fine wide receiver too, but it's really just limitations to the game with these next ones, and I'll explain. I'll try and be a little bit more brief with these next guys. I don't want to take up all the time in the world. But, I'll start with Skylar Bell. Skylar Bell, I am waiting on the combine because I am hearing that he can jump 40 inches in the vertical. I can't remember if I heard that through the Freaks list or where I heard that. But I'm hearing that he's going to test really well. And I also heard that in the Shrine Bowl practices, he hit like 21 miles an hour on the GPS. So these are things I haven't seen on tape. If he backs that up at the combine, we could be having a totally different discussion, because we're seeing a really good route runner here. There's another one of those guys where I don't think the athleticism stood out in a major way. And And again, he's playing at a lower level of competition too. So I factor that into the evaluation because a lot of the times he wasn't tested. The best cornerback that played him this year was Chandler Rivers, who I'm frankly not a fan of. That's tape, but the athletes that he's going up against, it doesn't look like he's even trying. Like, it almost just looks like he's running forward and people are just falling off him at times. So I question how well that's going to translate to the league. I don't know if he's going to be one of those guys that's considered this run after catch weapon, despite the production in college. So that's one of those unknowns that I just don't feel like I'm ever going to get an answer on. I kind of just have to speculate. But my comp for him was Jalen Tolbert. Like, Jalen Tolbert's this guy that showed some nice route running at a lower competition level, similar build. The main thing that he's going to be able to do is separate, despite not being, like a jitterbug athlete. That's the way I see Skylar Bell. And next, I believe I have Antonio Williams. Yes. Antonio Williams is he's going to run some really good two-way goes from the slot. I think he's got good short area burst. I think he's got good fluidity. He's going to be able to separate below the sticks. Like, he has all the traits. He almost looks robotic on some routes with how well he's able to freeze you with his eyes and use his twitch. Like, sometimes it looks like he teleports on route breaks. And I don't mean like he's like super fast or anything. I'm just talking about with his movements and how purposeful they are when he's running routes. So underneath, yeah, he's a threat. And he's also one of these guys that you put the ball in his hands, he's going to be able to make that first guy miss pretty often. So, there's a lot of first downs waiting to happen with this guy. The limitations, unfortunately, are the strength. He doesn't have great strength. He'll be able to get moved off routes pretty easily. He doesn't have vertical speed to really push the seam or test your defense or run clear outs that are very effective. He's mostly going to be an underneath the sticks guy. And if you're going to be a guy like that, I want you to be strong. I want you to be able to scrap. I want you to be able to come down with contested catches. But he just doesn't really have that in his arsenal. So he's just this really decent separator underneath who's going to be able to make the first guy miss a decent amount. Kind of like Danny Amendola, who's my comp for him. Danny Amendola, his whole career, was a good wide receiver 3. And I could certainly see that outcome with Antonio Williams. And, he's in this role-based players tier where, there's going to be some weeks where maybe if he's starting on a team or if he's getting significant steps on a team, I could see him being somebody where some weeks you play him at flex and he'll be able to perform for you. But he might not be like an every week mainstay for you. And next, I'm trying to rapid fire these guys a little bit more. So Malachi Fields. We were both at the Senior Bowl.
Great Senior Bowl, right?
Yeah, great Senior Bowl. I did not expect the route running to be as good as it was. Like, he's another guy that shows that twitch for a big man. And I'm going to give my comp for him straight up. It was Cedric Tillman because I felt similarly about Tillman coming out. He's not explosive. He's labored in his cuts. Like, he's just a limited athlete again. But that comes with the territory when you're somebody that's so big. And if you're going to be so big, you better be a big ball winner, which he is. He showed that at the Senior Bowl. He can make catches way outside his frame. He's got the body control to be able to hug the sideline and toe tap with the ball. You throw it too low, he'll be able to contort his body down there. You throw it too high, he's going to be able to adjust to that as well. Like, he's got that frame that it's just hard to miss him, really hard to miss him. And he's got enough twitch to be able to separate quickly underneath. Again, not a guy you're going to want to be going vertical very often, but he's going to be able to win. He's going to be able to win contested catch situations and get decent separation underneath. Not a big yards after catch guy, but again, this is the type of player that's going to play a role in the NFL. And next up, I have Chris Brazzell.
I'm intrigued by this because you have him way lower than the consensus.
Yeah, consensus.
And, I'm very curious what you have to say here, by the way.
Consensus seems to think he's a much better athlete than I think he is. Frankly, his athleticism didn't stand out to me at all. Like, what? Okay, he got downfield on Georgia one time and made one cool catch. Oh, whoa, cool. Right. Yeah, right. I seriously think that catch made him so much money. Because even on that catch, he didn't pull away. Like, he was covered. He didn't get past the safety. He was just there. And the safety was there too, and he was able to come down with the contested catch. And it was a great play. He's got those spectacular catches in his arsenal. Very similarly to Malachi Fields. He's a guy who's able to contort himself to catch the ball from multiple uncomfortable angles, despite where you throw it. So that's quarterback friendly. Quarterbacks love that. And he's a solid enough route runner, again, to get that underneath separation. But I didn't see downfield speed. I didn't see great short area burst. I thought he was limited laterally. Like, those are the three things, the holy trinity,
Right.
if you will. Like,
the 6'5" frame, he's placed from the outside. He has that ability to win. I don't know if you know this, but fun fact, his dad was a Jet. He's a Jet cowboy, so he has that DNA.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember reading that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the thing with him, again, last year breakout. So again, you got to be careful with these guys. These guys that in their last years of their college career, they had one breakout that came out of absolutely nowhere. You gotta wonder, where did this come from? Why have you not been able to perform consistently? And with him, it's hard to deny the spectacular catching ability that he has. But again, it's the holy trinity that I was talking about. I want you to explode off the snap. I want that first time that you plant your foot into the ground. I want you to get some separation there, explosiveness. I don't want to feel like you can't move side to side. Like, you got to labor a little bit and round off a bit to get back on track. I want to feel like you can push vertical and scare people with your speed. And see, that's the disconnect, I think, that I have with Brazel. Some people seem to think he's this speed demon. Yeah. I did not see that on his tape at all. So I'll tell you what, if he runs like a 4.4 something, then a 4.45, I'll tell you what, a 4.45, that would certainly sell me on him. Because I see like a 4.5 type guy. I like maybe even a little bit like 4.52-ish. I don't see somebody that's going to be able to separate vertically. So, and also he's got nothing to offer after the catch. He gets cut down so easily. So again, another great body control guy, another great catch radius guy, and a guy that's able to separate enough underneath to where he's not going to be a liability when you put him on the field. I just wonder about his ceiling. So I see him more as like a wide receiver 3 role player type than I do as like your first or second in command in your offense. Now, CJ Daniels, that's my last guy in this tier. I could have easily put him in the tier below as well. He's a really interesting player type because I think he does have that speed. I think he does have those movement skills that you want. It's just the route running was never there. He's going to be 24 on draft night. Is it ever going to be there? He wasn't a major – he's not a guy that's able to really get yards after catch. Like, sometimes he's so twitchy that he's able to sometimes just find a little bit of extra green grass, but just in terms of being able to get that foot in the ground and just lower your head, figure out how to navigate clutter, he doesn't really have that. And he plays tall too. He plays tall. So it's like cutting down a tree. If you grab your axe and you cut down the tree at the root, it's kind of hard to stay upright. He gets cut down. But the stuff he does really well is contested catches, being able to get downfield. He shows the movement skills again. He shows the route running ability sometimes. It's just not consistent. Like, again, like the closing space type deal. Maybe he'll round off a break here. Maybe he doesn't step on the toes and snap off the way that he should. Maybe there's a few too many extra steps. Like, he's a guy. You ever hear the term TikTok routes?
No, I haven't.
I see some TikTok routes on his like, it's TikTok routes are what people love to run at the Senior Bowl. Like, people love to run routes with like a whole bunch of extra steps. Like, you're never going to get that much time to separate in the league. Like, get over yourself. Be more efficient with your route breaks. But yeah, he'll add some extra steps because there's like a timing element of the route running game that he doesn't quite seem to get. And again, he's 24. So is it ever going to happen? But he's too intriguing of an athlete for me to just drop into like day 3 category. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of on that cusp for me. He's kind of in like comp pick range for me. If somebody wanted to spend a comp pick on him to take a chance on the kind of athlete that he is, and plus he's a ball winner. He's another guy. You put the ball in the vicinity, he's gonna battle you for it, and he has the frame to come down with those contested catches. So there's a lot of traits to like about him. They're just all so inconsistent. So because of the athlete, I have him in comp pick range, and I put him in this tier of like guys that I could see being a good wide receiver 3. But, again, dude, he's so old. Is it going to happen? Are you going to take that next step? Is it in there? I'm not totally sure. And these guys I'll be very quick about. These are my sleeper picks. I will say I have not watched Ted Hurst or Kevin Coleman yet. But from what I've seen of Ted Hurst, a lot of people are talking about him like they're talking about George Pickens. And he had this amazing moment where he mossed somebody at the Senior Bowl, which I'm sure you saw as well.
I'm going to pull it up. I got it on the IDP
site. I'd love to watch it again.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to pull it up in a second. I'm trying to get to it while you're talking. But yeah, him and a couple others, well, there's two on your list that I'm kind of Senior Bowl rising for me, in my opinion. But yeah, it's a hell of a catch. Okay, yeah, I got it. Hold on, let me get it up here for you.
There's a lot of people that really love Ted Hurst, so he's a guy that could certainly rise for me. I didn't really think to put him super high based on what because my eval is kind of incomplete on him. You know, I have like a couple games of his watch, but they were early in the season, and it's Georgia Southern, and they weren't great games. So I'm not quite sure what to do with him yet. I'll finish that eval later. Yeah, here it is. So you see the speed, you see the verticality.
I was right there for this.
Yeah, and you also see that ability to go up and get it. You know, wide catch radius, that's one hand right there.
You know, humble brag, if you guys want to check out these drills, we have them on the IDP Center channel. We were down there all week filming this stuff. And shout out to my boy, Delco Dave, Fantasy Football and Fast Draft. What happened was I put my camera down for like 1 second, Ben, and then this happened. So he's the one that got this.
That's what happened to me with the Derek Moore rep, where he destroyed Markel Bell. And like I just got there, like I didn't get my camera out quite yet, and I was looking at my phone trying to get it ready, and I hear everyone go ooh, and then I look back on tape, and that's what happened. Yeah. But just from this alone, you could see the body type similarities between him and Pickens. Which, again, I'm just throwing out the name that I've heard thrown around for him. Yeah, he's just this vertical speed, ball winner type guy. Some people have him as high as the first round. So he's incomplete for me. I will get to him when I get to him. Kevin Coleman, he's this jitterbug type movement skills guy who's just fast, explosive, fluid, able to separate. He's pretty good after the catch from what I've seen. But, you know, just small, just tiny guy. I don't think he's 5'11". He's listed at 5'11", and I think that's what he measured in at the Senior Bowl. He must have been wearing platform shoes or something. I swear to God, that guy is 5. If he measures in again at the combine at 5'11", I'll reconsider. But he just looks so small on tape. So another guy that's, you know, movement skills, kind of a what-if player. That brings me to my next guy who's kind of similar in that vein is Deion Burks. Deion Burks has some of the quickest feet in the entire draft and another jitterbug type. So he's the first guy that I have labeled specifically as more of a gadget guy. Like think Isaiah McKenzie. Isaiah McKenzie was never like this can win at all 3 levels type guy. He's got all the route running chops. He's never been that kind of guy. But he's been a guy that's a really good athlete that you put the ball in his hands, he's going to be able to make some people miss and take it downfield. So that's kind of how I see that's kind of how I see him, Deion Burks. And Tyron Montgomery, I'm going to talk about him real quick. Another Senior Bowl big-time winner.
Former basketball player. We like that profile.
So here's where I find his profile interesting. So he's going to be 24 on draft night, but he only started playing football 2.5 years ago. Again, you said former basketball star. So he started running routes with, I believe, his brother through COVID. Like once COVID hit, they just started running routes for fun. And he's like, oh, you know what? I kind of like this. And then a couple years later, he started playing football. So he's still very new to the game, despite his age. You know, you might look at age 24 and be like, oh, what next step is that guy really going to take? But he's, from an IQ standpoint, still very new to this game. So that's something to keep in mind. And he's a really refined route runner, but there's a reason he's D3. You know, he's just not a great athlete. I'm not sure what to make of his speed. Again, another guy, he's separating against guys that are all D3. So I'm not sure if he's really able, like fast enough to push vertically, or if these guys are just like all 4.7 guys.
Right. Yeah. He was making plays all week though, so I do like your call there.
He was, yeah, and he showed it against like big names. He had a great rep against Colton Hood. He had a great rep against Chris Johnson, he tends to show up at the catch point. But I'll tell you what, Tyron Montgomery was able to catch that ball placed just outside of his frame. Like he's got some impressive ball skills, impressive route running skills, just not really sold on the athlete, not sold on the strength, not really sold on the after the catch stuff. He's just kind of limited. But again, he's new to the game. What if there's some more steps to be taken despite his age? So he's in that tier for me as well. The last guy I want to mention is Jacoby Lane. Jacoby Lane, who I dropped a little bit after the Senior Bowl. Because what I saw on tape, I saw a guy that was raw as a separator. Like he doesn't understand the nuances of separation. He's just a guy that's big, that he looked like he moved around pretty well on tape. But I can't tell if that's just because Mekhi Lemon was attracting so much attention that there was barely anybody pressing him. And I'll tell you what, there are some moments where he flashes like a good diamond release on inside routes. That's where you kind of fake outside. You open up outside and you throw that indicator step there before breaking in. Like he has some of that stuff down, but I just saw he looked so tight at the Senior Bowl. He just looked like he could not move, could not separate, could not fight through contact. He doesn't have that hand fighting down. He's just a big goober. Yeah, that's harsh. He's not a goober. I'm sure he's a very nice guy. He's just this big guy that just kind of he lumbers a bit. He's a lumberer. But a thing that we also saw at the Senior Bowl, we saw the thing he's known for best, which is the incredible ball skills too. Like there were moments where he was able to make catches far outside of his frame. There was, I believe, I can't remember who he got it on, but I know he got a contested catch during the Senior Bowl practices.
Yeah,
like he's able to do that stuff. He's able to box you out like a basketball player and come down with that kind of stuff. But again, it's the movement skills that I worry about. Is he actually going to be able to separate in the league despite being this incredible ball winner? So do you remember Chris Durham in the NFL perchance?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, he was on the Lions for a bit, I remember. Like that's kind of how he is. He'll have some moments where coming off the bus, he's like, wow, that guy's a big dude. Ooh, I don't want to play against him. But he just doesn't quite have the stuff to him to be able to find that separation, even in short areas. But there's also going to be moments where you put the ball on the top shelf and he comes down with it. So Jacoby Lane's interesting. I dropped him a bit. He's early day 3 with a lot of these other guys I have down there. So that's all I got for you. I got those 20 names. That's what I think of this receiver class so far. I still got work to do.
Let's do a recap real quick. I'll read the first top 10. You read the 11 to 20. For wide receiver 1, he had Lemon. Wide receiver 2 was Tyson. Wide receiver 3 was Tate. Wide receiver 4 was Cooper. Wide receiver 5 was Branch. Wide receiver 6 was Bernard. Wide receiver 7 was Bell. Wide receiver 8 was Boston. Wide receiver 9 was Concepcion. Wide receiver 10 was Surratt. And what was the rest of your list, just so the audience can keep up?
Next is Skylar Bell, who, again, I'm waiting on him to test. He could even rise for me, because his route running was really impressive. Then Antonio Williams, Malachi Fields after that, Chris Brazel, who, again, I really want to see what that 40 time is, because he didn't look fast to me. CJ Daniels after that. And I didn't get my comp for CJ Daniels, by the way. He kind of reminds me of a lesser Christian Watson. Christian Watson, another similarly kind of limited route runner type, but he's got the skills to separate, and he's also got that downfield ability and ability to come down with contested catches. And then after that, we got the next tier, which I started off with Ted Hurst. Ted Hurst, another guy that could really end up rising for me once I get into him. Same with Kevin Coleman, who I put next.
Yeah.
And then we got Deion Burks, who I think is going to be the fun gadget guy from this class. Like, my God, you watch him. His feet are so quick. It's insane. Tyron Montgomery after that, the pride of Senior Bowl week. And then Jacoby Lane, the disappointment from Senior Bowl week. But still a good player. I'm not saying he's undraftable. He's certainly draftable. He's just not – you should temper your expectations for him.
And that's one hell of a list. I don't know if you remember when, I approached you about doing these shows. You're like, wait, what? The whole entire draft class? Like this early? Like it's an impressive list, but we put the work in and we want to show it to the audience, Right. I'm going to add one more deep dart throw because I play in deep leagues. There was one more other player that I thought was decent down at the Senior Bowl. Reggie Virgil. He's one of those deep shots. Honestly, a lot of people, they didn't even rank him because he didn't blow up till like, I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday. Most of like the main coaches and scouts like Tony Dungy and them, they were already gone. It was just some of us old heads down there. But I really liked what I seen out of him because he's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. He does a lot of different things well. I don't really think a single role defines him, so his profile is a little weird, but he does get production. I can see him on a lot of different teams doing a lot of different stuff. He's like a Rams player, a jack of all trades. I can see him doing something next level. So just keep an eye on that if you're in these deep 32-team leagues, like I know I am. Reggie Virgil might be a guy. I don't know, but I thank you so much for coming on this podcast, and we'll have to do some more because you're like me. You like to go down that rabbit hole and don't look back. Tell the audience where they can find you.
Well, you can find me at the Draft Professor. It's, again, a network full of draft sickos like me who just love to talk draft. And my spot when I come on is Saturdays at 10 a.m. So you can find me there.
Hard, everybody.